Welcome back, everybody, to the Game Nexus. It's Dwayne here, and today we're going to be doing a little bit of a different video than I've normally done. In fact, it's probably the first video of this type that I've ever done in all my years of content creation. We're going to be doing a terrain building video. Now, the reason why I'm doing this short little video, actually the genesis of it, is that I recently purchased a game for my son that is hopefully going to take us on a new journey of tabletop gaming and modeling, and that game is called BotWar. BotWar is a game that was inspired by 80s cartoons that we all grew up loving, or at least everybody in my age bracket grew up loving, and has a lot of influences across a lot of different genres of toys and cartoons. So along with any new game that I purchase, I often sort of steer towards what are my tables going to look like. So I've grown up over the years in this industry, in this hobby, from just playing on my kitchen table to actually wanting to embark on creating terrain of my own. And I found it kind of be an enjoyable part of the hobby in actual fact. So I do put a lot of resources and time into that side of it. So with a lot of my games, whether it be Star Wars Legion, Warhammer, or even Dungeons and Dragons these days, I do take time to build scenery, whether it be trees, rocks, hills, that kind of stuff as well. And I haven't really documented it, and I haven't really shown my viewers actually what goes into creating those set pieces. So this is the first video of its kind, and I'm going to start it off small. I'm not going to be showing you how to build a big table. I'm not going to be showing you how to do some really advanced level stuff. I'm going to be showing you how to build a moon crater. It sounds very funny and silly, but I'm going to do it. Mainly because the board that I'm creating for BotWar for my son is going to be a 2x2 board set on a moon, or a moon base, so to speak. The game revolves around giant robots fighting each other, and I thought no better way than to maybe create a sort of moon base type idea. And that idea was given to me by somebody on the BotWar community page. So having said that, I'm eschewing the normal terrain type thing for a board game like this. I'm not building a city. I'm not building forest and anything on Earth. I'm going to be building this board. Now, the BotWar game says that you should be playing on a 3x3. It just so happens that at my local hardware store, Home Depot, they sell 2x2 foam boards, which are perfect for my modeling. And you're going to see here really quickly that I use that material in creating a lot of my terrain pieces and such. So yes, I'm being lazy. I could go in and make a 3x3 table by cutting and gluing and all that fun stuff. But for my son, he's an intro gamer. It's a new game and he's younger. And I thought, you know, a 2x2 playing surface could work for us. So what you're going to see today is I'm making a terrain piece, a moon crater. And this idea came to me thinking, what kind of scatter terrain could I use for a moon base type situation? And obviously I'm going to be texturing the board, which I'll show you in a future video. But for now, I'm building some of these scatter pieces. So the 2x2 board is going to allow me to put maybe 2 or 3 of these things. They're not going to be blocking lines of cover. They're going to be kind of nice little sort of variances to the flat surface that we're going to see when I build the board. I will be building an actual moon base, which we'll do in another video as well. But for now, I'm just going to start building some really easy to make, quick and easy to bang out, maybe 20 minutes tops if you have the materials to make some of these moon craters. So let's hit the table, and I'll show you what I've got for materials and show you how to make it. Okay, so I'm going to start this off and just show you sort of what my assembled materials are for this project. Right off the bat, I'm going to talk about the safety side of it. I would get a N95 respirator mask, just because some of this foam work we're going to be cutting through is going to emit some fumes, so always recommend safety. I have, of course, my pink foam, which you can pick up at Home Depot for about $8 on a 2x2 sheet, give or take, depending on what the price is in your area. I'm just using a roll of tape to do my tracing for this project, but anything that lets you make a circle, don't worry about it being a perfect circle, as we're going to chop that puppy up pretty quick anyway. I have my pen, which I'm going to be used to draw some of the shapes and stuff. This here is a cardstock, a piece of cardstock. I use this to clean my hot knife. My hot knife is right here, and I have it preheated at the moment as well. You can pick these up for about $30. This is a hot wire knife, which allows you to just cut through the pink foam. It's got a nice handy thing there. You don't want to burn yourself with that. I've got my white glue. I also have some sandpaper, which you'll see me using to smooth out some of the edges after I cut it. Some sand flock, which we'll use on the crater as well. I picked up from Michael's as well some Deco Art light gray paint. That's just to dry brush the piece of terrain after we're done. Paintbrush, mixing tray. Pretty standard stuff if you're into hobbying. So first things out first, I'm going to take my foam core, or my foam, it's not foam core, and I'm going to make my basic shape. So I'm just going to trace around Like I said, this is going to get chopped up anyway, so you're not going to actually keep it as that perfect circle. So there you go. So I'm going to take my hot knife. This thing is a USB powered hot knife. So like I said, about $30. And my next step actually in terrain making is I'm actually going to be getting a hot knife cutting board, which allows me to make perfectly straight shape. So albeit this is getting the job done, if I want to make some terrain quarters, some terrain pieces that involve straight edges, it doesn't look as good. So we're going to slice into this thing, and I'm going to warn you right now, this is very satisfying. So we're going to start off by just punching through it, see how quick that goes. And we're just going to go and cut our circle out. So this is a little bit of a slow process. But the big thing here is you just want to make sure that you're not putting too much force. I don't know what the structural integrity of this little rod, this little metal rod is, but my guess is at some point, being that it's hot, if you put too much force on it, it might bend it or break it even. So for me, I just kind of have some patience. And actually, I'm going to stop right there. And I'm going to put my mask on, because I just realized that I was telling you guys to wear the mask, and then I didn't put the mask on myself. So I'm going to put my mask on and get back to cutting. And again, like I said, you don't need to be precise. We're going to chop this up anyway, but it helps if you do keep it nice and smooth so you don't have too much cleanup afterwards. And I'm going outside a little bit because I am going to be adding a sloped edge to this, which means I'm going to be shaving off some of the core size of the circle by having sloped edges. And it really doesn't matter too much. I mean, ultimately you can make these things as big as you want to make them. Or as small as you want to make them. So if you do lose a little bit of the circle due to your carving and stuff like that, that's okay as well. And you can see here that I'm going quite outside the lines. I'm going to carve off most of that anyway. So the important thing is just getting that circle out. There we go. Check that over there. And I'm going to clean off my knife, like I was saying. Just use the cardstock on the side here. And that just keeps it clean. And also, you're not burning foam when you put your knife down and sending all those fumes into the air. We're killing the planet as it is. We don't want to do anything more. So I'm just going to clean that off. I'm going to put that off to the side there. So I'm going to take my sandpaper, and I'm just going to So we've got our core shape. Now, I'm going to show you the one that I've completed, just so you can get an idea of what this looks like. So you'll see here that I've actually gone and created some sloped edges on it. And that's actually a tricky process. So I'm going to show you how I do that now, and it's going to be a little bit messy. But we're going to take this, and we're going to start going down on an angle with our cutting tool. And we're going to go like this. And this thing cuts really easy, so you don't have to worry about forcing it. The trick here is just to get the right angle. And you kind of curve your hand as you go. So I'll show you in a second here the end result. Make sure you don't touch that blade. You're getting all the there. So you can see here how I'm kind of sloping the edges a bit. So I'll keep doing that here. You're going to lose a little bit of this size. So again, if you want to make your circle bigger to start with, you can do that. You're going to lose a little bit to the cutting. It can get kind of messy with this thing. part of the fun of working with this pink foam is just experimenting with what you can do with your knife. You'd be amazed at some of the ideas that you might come up with as far as designs. And the cool thing about this is that rock formations are just a natural with this thing. I spent many years of my hobbying life being kind of afraid of jumping into this side of the hobby business with I don't know, I've always, as a kid, I've had an aversion to hot things. It's always scared me, so I just didn't get involved in it. So I knew about hot knives for a long time. I just didn't want to touch that. So recently I've gotten into it, and now I'm kind of addicted to it. So I'm going to slice this little section off here. And again, you go nuts. I mean, it's all you. If you feel like you got a good design for the crater and you like the look of it. For me, I just want the slope effect. Yeah, that's sort of a Games Workshop staple. Back in the day, they always used to have sloped hills. So for me, it's just kind of a normal state for my terrain. And I think we're almost done. Yeah. So let's go with that for now. And I'll get my card, clean off my knife, like I said. Put that back there safely on its stand. And there we go. Take all that. It's going to be like spider webs all over the place. I'm going to take my sandpaper. But I'm going to go a step further, and you'll notice here we have a flat top. And again, if you're just making a nice piece of basic scatter terrain, that would be perfect. Just paint it up, texture it up, whatever you want to do, and you got yourself a rock formation. So I'm going to go ahead, and this is the tricky part about this project, is I have to create the indent, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Is I have this sort of inner crater, and that's going to be a little messy, a little tricky, but there's an easy way to do it. So I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to go and create a very small inset because I know that I'm going to be chipping away and sloping the edges. So I'm going to go with a small inset. And again, a very satisfying. You can go deep on this, as deep as you want the crater to be. Just keeping in mind that if you go too deep, you're going to go all the way down through it and create a donut. And then you're going to have to fill that up later. So for me, I'm just going to go moderately deep. And again, don't put much pressure on your knife because you can see here that I might be bending it a bit, and I don't know what the structural integrity of it is. I've been warned not to put too much pressure on it because you might snap the blade off, and that's $30 you don't want to have to go and spend. Okay, so I've got my my circle. Unfortunately, there's no easy way to do this. You just got to chop it up and start removing it. So I'm going to cut mine into little cubes. Don't need to go any deeper than that, really. Get all my extra stuff. You want to dispose of this stuff nicely, otherwise your pets, if you have any in your house, are going to get a hold of it. So I've got this partial crater. What I'm going to do is I'm going to slope the sides. And I'm going to use a similar technique that I used on the outside. We're just going the opposite way now. And I'm going to carve the insides as well. Kind of sloping with that. There. You just kind of curve your arm as you're doing it. Now, I realize that there's probably a billion people out there who are saying, Dwayne, we already know how to do this. Why are you wasting my time making a YouTube video on how to do this? And I guess there's one school of thought that I've had is that I've often taken it for granted about the things that I can do when it comes to my hobbies, or the things that I know even. Early on in my content creation career, I was very frustrated by the fact that I wasn't able to get information to my audience faster than other people were. And I always felt that that was sort of the benchmark that you'd have to strive for. And then I realized that, well, for one thing, not everybody has access to the same sources of information. Not everybody tunes into the same websites or YouTube channels. And not only that, but some of the things that I know, some people just don't. Maybe they just need some help learning how to do these things that I know how to do or know about. So that kind of reinvigorated me on my content creation journey to realize that, hey, you know what, Dwayne, just do it. And maybe there's people out there who appreciate it and want to learn how to do it. So voila, we've got ourselves a hollowed out crater. So we're not done yet. So I'm just going to clean up a little bit here and go on to the next step. And then I'm going to grab my hot knife, and this is kind of where the artistic side of this project comes. I'm going to start making some lines, really. I'm just going to start carving some shapes and stuff up because, you know what, moons aren't perfect. And I'm still going to adhere to the curvature that I created, the slope, but I just want to kind of add some broken rock concepts. Whatever you want to do, you see how I'm just going along here and maybe just having fun with my blade. And even going down here on the inside, it's like pumpkin carving 101, except for with a hot knife. Wouldn't it be easier to make pumpkins with a hot knife? Okay. Whatever you want to do, just have fun with it. Get a feel for it. Just imagine that it's kind of fragmented and chewed up. You know, go sideways, make some experiment with your blade. This is all like kind of, you know, it'll make it easier to do the next one because you can sort of get some ideas as to what you're doing. And once it's all painted, you'll get an idea of what it looks like maybe and go, oh, that didn't look so good. But there we go. That's sort of your carving stage. So I think I'm ready to take this mask off because it's kind of hard to talk and hard to breathe at times. I'm going to do a quick little, before I do that, I'm going to do a quick little sand just to smooth over some of that roughness. There we go, in the bottom. And we're done. Take my mask off, and for now I'm going to turn my blade off as well because I don't anticipate needing that anymore. So what you got here is a miniature version of that crater. Again, not playing the game, I'm not sure exactly how the figures are going to interact with this terrain. I know that there's varying different base sizes in BotWar, so you know, you might be able to fit one right in it. You might be able to go behind it. It could turn out that these craters are just not conducive to playing BotWars altogether, but in keeping with the theme that I have going with this Moonbase, and I'm going to be designing it later, I think these will work. So next step is we get messy. I'm going to put some glue in here. It's not really that messy. White glue will work fine. And I'm running out, so you guys get to suffer with me as I wait for the white glue to drop into the middle. There you go. That's a lot, actually. Probably don't need that much. And I'm going to grab my sacrificial brush. Pick these brushes up on Amazon for like 15 bucks for a whole set, so pretty good deal. Just keep, I think this is now my sacrificial terrain brush now. I'm not painting with this. And we scoop it around. Scoop it around like the soup of glue. Getting some blue in my crater. There we go. Dwayne, do not start a career as a singer. Now, the trick with this is that this is just kind of like fine moon sand. So on my other terrain piece, I avoided the outside and just kept all the sand to the middle. If you wanted to, you could just go and say, you know what, I want to add some sand on the sides over here, you know, and kind of like, it doesn't have to be all pooled into the middle like a swimming pool. If you felt that you wanted to expand beyond the borders of the bowl, you could do that as well. Maybe we'll do that for this one and see how that turns out. My thinking is that there was probably a missile or some sort of laser blast that hit the moon and caused these craters to be formed, so that makes sense that the sand would go scattering. Okay, I would recommend putting that brush in a thing of water. In fact, I have one, so I'm going to do that. Just because in the world of hobbying, sometimes we forget to do things like that. So while that is in there, we're going to sand this puppy up. Now, this is really the messy part. I can't count the amount of times that I have vacuumed this floor and my desk with, you know, I've got flock and, yeah. So I'm going to just sand this puppy up. This sand here, now just so you know, not all sand is created equal. There's different textures of sand. I buy all my sand at Michael's here in Canada. And you're going to get different gradients. This is a fine grade. There's thicker grade with bigger chunks, which I use sometimes for different projects. But there you go. And feel free to go. I mean, this stuff's fairly cheap. Feel free to be as generous as you want. The trick with it is if you don't go generous, you have to go back and do it again because really only a small amount of the sand that you pour on it is actually going to adhere, or it's going to soak into the glue. So at least this way, if you put lots on, as most as possible soak in. Excuse me. And then you can actually just shake that off now because really the glue is pretty quick to capture the sand. So I'm going to shake that up like that. Go over the edges, spill over the edges a bit. There. Okay, I'm going to let that dry, and then I'm going to come back to you guys, and we're going to finish up this video with some painting tips. Okay, so now we're going to do the base coat stage. The trick to this is not to go too heavy, because this foam will dissolve if you're using dark spray paints. So I'm going to give it a light spray. Okay, so that's got a nice gray undercoat to it, and I'm going to let that dry and then get back to you guys. Okay, so here we are back on the table again. I've now realized that my little crater that I'm doing for this video sample is a little bit smaller than the one that I originally said I was going to be creating. This is kind of like a little cupcake, and this is like the pizza. But as you can see, you know, there's no problem in doing that. I mean, if the next go around that you want to make is a bigger version of this, just make your circle bigger and make your inset bigger as well. So there's no really wrong way to do this kind of a project. Everything adds to the table, and I can't wait to actually see what this is going to look like as scatter terrain. And I'm actually quite excited to show you guys the board design that I've come up with. So for now, we're going to put my pizza over to the side here, and we're going to focus on our biscuit. Or muffin. So I've already pre-poured out some gray acrylic deco art paint, the stuff that I showed you at the beginning there. And I'm going to use some paper towel. For those of you who are experienced with dry brushing techniques, this is nothing new, but I don't want to goop it on. I want to kind of just get the flakes, and you'll get a feel for it. But I'm just going to go in and I'm going to start lightly dusting over the sand area just to bring out some of that texture. And I'm going to start light by just putting a light coat, and just to sort of see how light I want to make it. And as you can see, it's already bringing out the the color. Now, unfortunately, I don't think I let this dry, so I'm going to have to cover up some of my mistakes here. I should have let this dry a little bit longer, but that's what you get when you're making live videos. So I'm going to dab this on as opposed to brushing it on, so I don't disturb. And on my particular board, I'm actually okay seeing some of the pink foam underneath, mainly because the concept for my Moonbase is going to be that there's energy fissures on the Moonbase or on the surface, so you're going to see pink and purple kind of scores alongside the surface as the board goes under construction. So for me, having a little bit of pink on it's not a big deal. So being that I'm just tapping it on versus brushing it on, I'm going to just put a little bit more than I would normally, because I would normally be brushing this on. And yeah, it is a little bit wet, as you can see down at the bottom there. I should have let that dry a little bit longer, but it's okay, we're in it now. Okay, and I'm just going to dab this on. The outside of the foam, I'll go back to dry brushing it on. You'll see in a second, because there's no gravel on there to worry about disturbing. So for now, I'm just going to dab this on the inside. And you may have to come back and revisit this if you're a little bit more patient like I am, or like I'm not. You can come back and just do some more dry brushing. In my case, I've disturbed some of it, so I'm going to have to let it be. So I'm going to go and now do the dry brush on the outside of the crater. And the trick to the dry brushing here is not to paint the terrain piece light gray, although you may end up preferring that. It's to just highlight the score mark. So I'm going to just gently, I don't know if you can see it here, but just gently go over the top so that you can see that there's a different shade underneath the lines that I've made with the knife. And again, with my concept being that the whole planet has got an energy source underneath of it, the whole pink foam actually leans into that a little bit. But as you can see here, I'm just kind of dry brushing this on, and it's sticking to the top, the paint, but not the underside of the cuts. So I'll give you a little bit better view. Add some more paint here. And really how light you make it's up to you. I mean, there's no golden rule here. I just prefer to have a little bit of dark to it as well, so I don't want to go too much with the gray, the light gray. I purposely chose a light gray paint. I was getting tired of mixing all my whites and blacks to create a gray, so I just said screw it, and I went and bought a light gray. I don't know why I didn't do that sooner. They say common sense is worth $1,000,000, but okay. So as you can see here, I've now gone and dry brushed. And again, the fun part of doing this kind of hobby is there's nothing wrong that you can do. It's all just fun with paints here down at the Game Nexus today. So without anything else, I have made a few errors on making sure that my sand dried, and you can see a few spots where there's some pink foam coming through, but for the most part, this is a done crater. It's a little bit smaller than the other one, which is not too bad. It's a good idea. And you'll see these on my Moonbase table as I make further videos to show you guys. But final note is, if you do have a game that you're playing that doesn't involve giant robots fighting each other, whether that be Space Marines or soldiers or whatever, and you have a themed board that this might be applicable to, definitely feel free to use this for those games. I was just kind of sort of gearing it towards BotWar, being it's an exciting new game that I'm going to be playing, and hence why the title of the video is Building Terrain for BotWar. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope to have more videos on my tabletop to show you how I build my terrain and what I do in my downtime. And as always, make sure that you like and subscribe, and put those notification alerts on so that you can get alerted whenever I make new content. Thanks for tuning in. Take care, guys.